So what if I want to make a call to someone using Discord or Messenger or even Zoom? Then you need a voice over IP protocol to make that happen. Now, what is the voice over IP protocol? It's basically the telephony system over the internet, where devices use their internet connections instead of phone lines to make calls to someone. So, what do you need for a VoIP system? You need at least two IP phones, or two devices. You need a VoIP server, better known as a PBX, and a SIP trunk. So, what the PBX does is that it provides the voice over IP service through our devices. Without it, then you can't make a call to someone using the internet. And what a SIP trunk does is that when I want to make a call to someone using the outside internet, then my voice traffic gets relayed through that SIP trunk across the internet and back. So SIP trunks are what makes our voice calls over the internet possible. So for today's lab, I'll be using a Cisco CUCME, which is basically one of Cisco's PBX systems, where routers can act as VoIP servers. The good thing about it is that it saves time and money, and it's great for smaller VoIP systems. It is not great for larger VoIP networks, where you have like 100+ phones. It gets complicated there, so that's for the CUCM to handle. And finally, here's for today's lab. I will be making a basic VoIP system using two IP phones and two routers, one phone for each router. Okay, so we're ready to configure our routers as VoIP servers for our lab. So if you look here, we have two routers, R1 and R2. We're going to configure R1 as 192.168.5.3 and R2 as 192.168.5.4. So what I've done here is I've actually prepared a script so that I don't have to like type everything out one by one. So what we're going to do here is assign the IP addresses to the routers. So if we can copy and paste that in the router, it's good practice to actually make a script instead of just typing commands just out of the blue. So the next thing you're going to do is enable the phone registration. So by typing out this command, you're enabling IP phones to register to our VoIP system. So if we do, if we type ephone register for each one. Now the next thing is we're gonna set the limit of the IP phones to register to our system. So we're only going to set the limit to two phones and two directory numbers, also known as phone numbers. So let's do that. Copy, paste it there, do the same thing here. Okay. So the next thing is we're going to set the source of the voice traffic. So by typing out IP source address, your IP address, and the port, you're telling the router to use this IP address as the source for the voice traffic. So IP source address, and then the IP address of the router, the interface of what you did here earlier. So the interface F000, 5.3 for 2000. We're gonna do the same thing for the other one here. source address 192.168.5.4 and then system message and then the CNF files, which are basically the configuration files. So by pasting that there, the next thing we have here is we're going to define a directory number, also known as a phone number. So if we go to R1 here, where is R1? It's right there. Okay. So if you type ephone dn1, we're configuring the phone number 1, just so the number 1. And we're going to give it a number, like 7833. And then my name. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing for R2. So I'm going to do everything like side by side. So if we paste it there, that's already configured. And then we're going to assign the IP phone to each router. So if I type ephone1 and MAC address 080027886984, we're basically telling the router to say, hey, please register this IP phone with this MAC address to your system. And this is the MAC address of my IP phone, which is a Windows Server virtual machine. And we're gonna give it a button. So it could be 2, and then 1, which is our directory number 1. If your directory number is 10, then you put 10 in there. So the next thing you do is restart. It won't restart because I don't have it on right now, but you'll do that later when you make changes, or every time you make a change, you restart it. So we're gonna do the same thing here, except that the MAC address is different because it corresponds to this Windows Server VM here. Okay, paste it there. And then finally, you need a dial peer. If you only have one router in this VoIP system, then you don't need a dial peer. But since we have 2 routers, then each router will treat the other router as another network. So you need the dial peer so you can join those 2 quote-unquote networks together as one. Otherwise, if you don't have a dial peer, then you won't be able to call the other side, right? So by typing dial peer voice 1000, it can be any number, and then put VoIP in there. And then by typing destination pattern 7933, we're telling the dial peer to only allow the destination 7933. So we wouldn't be able to call anyone else other than 7933. And then the session target IPv4, this would be the other router's IP. So we're in router 1 right now. We're going to configure this one as 192.168.5.4. That would be the other router there, which is assigned that IP address. And then, oops, hold on, what's wrong here? Oh, there's no dash there, guys. And a codec. There's a G711 ULAW, which is a common codec, and then no VAD. We're gonna set up the same thing here for R2, except that the session targets and destination patterns would be 7833 and 192.168.5.3. So let's do that. Okay, so now that our routers are ready, they're finally configured for as PBX servers, then let's register our phones. Yeah, just start that. So what we're gonna do with the phones here is we're going to register it by typing out the TFTP server. So for our phone 2 here, by typing the TFTP server as 192.168.5.4, we're telling the phone to say, hey, register to this router if you want to use voice over IP. So if you click OK and restart the phone, it should be able to register from there. So if we're going to do the other side here, which is already there, I don't know why. Oh, yeah, so I don't know why that happens. So let's configure that to the right TFTP server, which is 192.168.5.3, also known as R1. So if you click OK, it should restart by itself. So if we check here, the phone has actually registered. I don't know why it already registered, but when I did not set the TFTP server, but anyway. So here's how you can tell the phone has registered. Let's make a call right now. So if we make a call to 7933, should be answered. There you go. So now that we've made a call from CIPC 1 to CIPC 2, let's test it on the other side. There. So we know that our VoIP system works perfectly. And if you want to make sure that the right IP phones are registered to each router, you can type do show ePhone summary and check the IP address there. So I know that this is the 5.11 one, just registered to my R1, and the same thing here. Yeah, so this blue one here, this is 5.12, which is registered to R2. So I know I have everything right. And if you want to check your dial peers, you can type do show dial peer voice summary. So you can see 7933. That's the other phone here, the blue one. And then the session target is 5.4, which is our R2. So we know we have everything right. Do show dial peers summary. If you do the same thing on R2, you can see it's 5.3. The target is 5.3, which is R1. And the destination pattern is 7833, which is this phone here. So that's it, guys. I hope you learned something.